My journal reflections the revelation of authority and dominion. October 16th. Today, as I sat and pondered the word authority, I didn't expect it to open a door so wide that it would lead me back to the garden, to Adam, to the beginning of creation, and to the echo of what was lost and what was meant to be restored through Christ. At first, I only wanted to understand why Jesus spoke with such authority, why the crowds marveled that God had given such authority to a man. But as I sat longer, something began to stir inside me. I started to feel that this was not just about Jesus performing miracles, it was about who he was representing, the image of the Father's dominion upon the earth. And in that realization, I began to see myself. Because if Jesus, the Son of God, came as the Son of Man to show us what it means to walk under divine authority, then his life wasn't just to impress, it was to impart. When he said, "All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me," he wasn't just proclaiming victory, he was declaring restoration. He was returning to humanity what Adam had once carried and lost. As I meditated, I imagined Adam standing in Eden. The world around him was unfallen. Every leaf breathed peace. Every breeze carried music. There was no fear, no anxiety, no striving. Adam didn't have to earn dominion. It was breathed into him. When God said, "Let them have dominion," I saw not a king with a scepter, but a son with a father's breath in his lungs. Dominion wasn't about control, it was about communion. It was the authority to release life, not to rule with force. But when sin entered, that breath dimmed. The crown became heavy, and the heart that once flowed with divine rhythm started to beat in fear. I began to see that what Adam lost wasn't just paradise. It was the awareness of partnership. He lost the consciousness that dominion was never his alone. It was the Father working through him. And that is the same thing I often lose when I start to feel anxious about my condition, my healing, my waiting. I start to think that I must make things happen, that I must fix, control, and strive. But in that very moment, I slip from the rest into toil, like Adam after the fall. Yet as I pondered, I heard a gentle whisper. Dominion never meant striving. It meant trusting. The power to reign begins in the place of rest. I began to link this to the story of the disciples. When Jesus called them, he didn't give them techniques. He gave them himself. He said, "I give you authority." It was delegated dominion. He was training them not to depend on themselves, but on the same Spirit that rested upon him. I could almost feel it, the way Jesus would look at them after healing the sick, after casting out demons, and quietly say, "This is how the Father works through me." And when he ascended, he didn't leave them empty. He sent the Holy Spirit, the same breath that hovered over the waters in Genesis, the same life that raised him from the dead. He was saying, "Now you breathe as I breathed. Now you walk as I walked. You are not powerless anymore. The dominion has returned." It struck me deeply. The cross was not just the forgiveness of sin, it was the return of dominion. That means even in my frailty, even in the trembling of my heart when I sit in the doctor's office waiting for results, I am not under the dominion of fear. Fear is not my ruler. Christ in me is. Dominion doesn't mean everything is easy or certain. Dominion means that even when I don't understand, the peace of Christ rules within me. Dominion means that my heart listens to a higher voice than my anxious thoughts. And this voice says, "Rest. You are under my authority, not under the world's report." As I lingered on this, I began to realize how deeply I have misunderstood authority. In the world, authority often means hierarchy. Who's above, who's below, who commands, who obeys. But in the kingdom, authority flows through yielding. Jesus said, "The Son can do nothing by himself. He only does what he sees the Father doing." This is the mystery of true authority. It comes from perfect dependence. Adam lost it because he chose independence. Christ restored it because he chose surrender. And this is the lesson my heart is learning again and again, that healing, purpose, and peace don't come by trying harder, but by yielding deeper. The dominion of heaven is not taken by force, it is received by rest. It is not a power that crushes, it is a love that reigns. I saw in my spirit a picturia garden, once broken, now blooming again. A man not wearing a crown but carrying peace, and light flowing from his heart into the ground beneath his feet. And I heard these words: dominion begins where love rules. It is love that gives me authority over fear. It is love that gives me authority over sickness, not by denial but by faith. It is love that teaches me to speak peace to the storm instead of being swallowed by it. When I yield to this love, I see the dominion of Christ expressed even in weakness. Because dominion is not about outward control, but inward alignment. It is not about how loud I can command, but how deeply I can trust. Today I realized that Jesus didn't come to make me a servant who carries power. He came to awaken me as a son who carries his nature. When I am resting in him, I am ruling with him. When I am abiding, I am reigning. That is dominion restored. Even now, as I sit quietly, I feel the Holy Spirit within me reminding me, Adam lost it through doubt. You regain it through faith. Adam fell by taking what wasn't his. You rise by giving me what's yours. And so I whispered, Lord, I give you my fear. I give you my timeline. I give you my expectations. And in that simple surrender, I felt the authority of heaven resting again within me. Not loud, not forceful, but like a still, deep river flowing through the cracks of my being. Authority and dominion, they are not distant concepts anymore. They are breath. They are communion. They are relationship restored. Adam once walked with God in the cool of the day. Now Christ walks within me in the stillness of my heart. And every time I choose faith over fear, surrender over striving, I am stepping back into Eden, into the rhythm of divine dominion. I no longer need to prove my strength. I only need to remain connected to His. I am learning that the authority Jesus gave was never about control. It was always about continuing His compassion. He healed because the Father's love compelled Him. He ruled storms because the Father's peace sustained Him. He forgave because the Father's mercy overflowed through Him. And so, dominion in me must look the same. It is not the authority to demand, but the authority to love deeply and fear nothing. As this revelation deepened, I began to see that dominion has layers, first restored through the cross, then distributed through the Spirit, manifested through obedience, and co-reigned through intimacy. Each stage is not a different power, it's a deeper surrender. And perhaps this is what maturity means, not that I become more powerful, no, but that I become more one with Him. Sometimes I still ask, Lord, what about my healing? And I sense His gentle voice say, it is already within you. You are learning not just to be healed, but to reign with me through it. That makes me pause, because healing now feels less like an event and more like a relationship. Each day that I trust Him in weakness, I am walking in restored dominion. Each day that I surrender control, I am aligning with His authority. I don't know when everything will change in my body, but something already has changed in my soul, and that is the beginning of true dominion. So today I breathe again as one who was once dust, but now carries the breath of heaven. And I quietly declare, not as a boast, but as a truth rising within, I am His son. I carry His dominion. I live under His authority. I walk not in fear, but in faith. The earth beneath my feet remembers Eden, because heaven now lives in me.